Now, it's nice to see everybody.
Fabulous. We will start now, just for the benefit of those that have joined us promptly, because this is a power hour and there's a lot to get through and we don't want to keep you longer than the time specified. So we will finish for 2:30. So hello, everybody. Welcome to session 4 in this Empowering Emerging Leaders workshop series. I'm Jade Maloney, Operations Manager here at the Institute of Health and Social Care Management. And as always, we are joined by Dr. Claire Mould, Founder and Director of Curve Strategic and CEO of Heart of England MenCap, who joins us to deliver this series. So session 4 is all around positive recruitment and retention. We'll be looking at value-based, compassionate recruitment and how to extend these principles beyond the initial hiring phase. We'll address the journey of the employees from their first interaction with us as the organisation to their long-term development and growth. Some top tips, lessons learned, and we'd love to hear your experiences and best practices as well. There'll be opportunities for you to contribute. So please, if you can unmute. There's the chat box if you're in a noisy environment, and Claire will keep an eye on that. I'll be sharing the slides today so she can see everybody. And Claire, if you're happy, I'll bring your slides up for you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jade. That's really kind of you. And hello, everybody. Good afternoon to you all, and thank you for joining us. As Jade said, this is a power hour, so we make no apologies for powering through what we're going to be doing, because there is a lot to cover. And please do feel free to interact in any way, whether that's through the chat or just putting your hand up and saying that you want to say something. I don't mind if I'm in mid-flow. I'm very used to stopping and then going again. So if something's on your mind, feel absolutely free to turn around to me and say oh, hold on a minute, Claire, can I just ask you a point here? I won't be offended. It's not a problem at all. So let's get going then. Thank you, Jade. So what we're going to do is we're going to first of all look at what an effective recruitment process involves, because lots of people think that they know about recruitment, but when they actually break it down, an effective recruitment process isn't always about the same as the recruitment process that they're currently doing. And then we're going to say why and how this can be linked to successful retention. And that involves analysing the employee's journey. And then we'll be finishing off with looking at what constitutes value-based, compassionate recruitment. Okay, so a lot to cover in the next hour, but that doesn't mean we don't mind having conversations. So do chip in if you want to. I'll still bring us in on time so we all leave at 2:30. So an effective recruitment process. The first point you've got to think about is we need to address why you've got recruitment issues. Why is it that in the first place? Because so many often people like this, everyone say, oh, we've got to recruit for this, or oh, we're always recruiting for this particular care worker or this practitioner or this particular post. And they don't take the time to think, why are we recruiting for it? Do we need to replace it? Could we replace it with something else? Do we need to review the job description? Do we need to review the job title? Why have we got recruitment issues in the first place? So often, like I say, people just go at this cycle of somebody's left, we have to recruit, or we've got some gaps, we have to recruit. They don't take the time to do the back end work of analysing. So it involves far more than just focusing on advertising and recruitment campaigns. We're going to be looking at the importance of what your adverts look like and how that reflects to what role you actually need, rather than it might not be the one that you're actually recruiting for. Okay, so we begin an effective recruitment process by looking at how recruitment issues can be minimized and prevented. That is our starting point. We don't start by just assuming. We need to think that, well, actually, do we need to replace this person? Do we actually need to look why so many people are leaving in the first place? Can we change roles around a bit? Staffing is our biggest overhead as a cost of any organisation. Can we actually prevent this recruitment process? Ask yourself some honest questions rather than just knee-jerk to say we're going to advertise straight away. Thank you, Jade. So often people just go, I'm here to recruit you, roll up, roll up. And then they get disappointed that people don't turn up. That isn't an effective recruitment process. That's just putting out an advert going, we're here with no further thought. Stop that if that's how you work now. That isn't going to be effective. That is why you'll be continually recruiting. Thank you. So we're looking then at importance of organizational profile. Okay, if you just move straight on to the next slide, Jade, thank you. It's, you need to decide at the worm job fair, are you going to be the tequila worm or are you the bait? What's going to attract people to come and work for your organization? We are aware we are in a climate where there are more jobs than people applying for them, especially in health and social care. What's going to make you stand out? Why should people of all of those adverts think, do you know what? I want to go and work for that organization. Be the tequila worm and not the bait. Thank you. So, first little activity. I'm just going to give you a couple of minutes. These are mainly you can take away and you consider these when you've got more time and to share with your team. That's what the Power Hour's about, giving you a whole workbook of a digital workbook of activities you can take away with you. But just for a moment, I want you to take a second or two just to think, if I Googled your organization, what would come up? Honestly, if I suddenly did it, what would come up? What would be the main thing that would come up? And then the second part for you to consider is, if I overheard some members of your team in the pub, what would they say about their experience of working at your organisation? Because these are the main two ways that attract people. In this day and age, if people see an organisation, they often Google it. The amount of times that people turn around and say, oh, yes, I just Googled it. It's interesting that I recently as Jade mentioned, that in addition to running Curve, I'm also at the moment until the end of August supporting them as interim CEO and doing a fundraiser. So and I actually did the marathon as a fundraiser, and I managed to get Lawrence Llewellyn Bowen to support and work forwards and everything. I'm not saying this is a boast. I'm saying this is something funny, that it turned out it highlighted how many people do Google the organisation, because the amount of times I did presentations as the CEO of Heart of England MenCap, and then people Googled it and they said, oh, it's really funny, a picture of you came up in your shorts and your running vest with Lawrence Llewellyn Bowen. What on earth's going on there? And it just and people don't, obviously that was something that made people comment. It made them stand out. And it just highlighted to me just actually how many people in this day and age, you do anything anywhere and people go away and they Google you. So what's your organisation saying about you? And then the second thing is, when we are in cafes, pubs, wherever it may be, here we are, we're going into a bank holiday weekend. People may be sort of at a restaurant, pubs, so areas that you can overhear people talking. The amount of times I might be in a pub or a cafe and it's like Friday evening, you hear people going, oh, thank goodness that's over. I've had an awful week. And I'm just kind of innocently sort of waiting for someone to come back with a drink or something. And I can hear them talking. Or I might be the person, the friend that's meeting them. You know, if someone comes in and goes, oh, thank goodness, Jade, absolutely. Could you honestly get me whatever the strongest drink is? I'm so glad. I can't believe I've had this. If I'm the third person there, am I going to be thinking, oh, that sounds a delightful place to work? No, I'm not. Whereas if someone comes in and they go, oh, sorry, I'm a bit late. We got caught up because we did this and this. Honestly, I've had a really, really good day because I've been doing this and I've been doing that and I've been doing that. And the day's just absolutely flown. It's been really good. And oh, it'll be really funny. And then that's the sort of place you go, oh, I don't suppose there's any jobs going at your places there. You hear people saying it. And people, if they mean it, and then afterwards they turn around and go, no, seriously, actually, my niece is looking for a job, or my nephew's looking for something, or my son, whomever, or I'm looking for something. They're not going to say that if your team are going in and absolutely berating. This is why this is good activity for you to internalize, but also very interesting to share with your team. What would your team say about this? Thank you, Jade. Fulfilled, valued employees will naturally and genuinely talk positively about their workplace. So often, I go to events. I was at a breakfast networking event this morning, and it was delightful to hear so many passionate health and social care workers talking about what they were doing. They're full of something. There's somebody that's sort of saying about, oh, and it was really good, and we did a quiz last night, and it was so funny, and we did this, and it was really great, and we were all allowed to leave a bit early because we were able to do this to support with that, or somebody's come in and it's been really good because I've been able to get support with my shift work on this. And it's just the passion that emanates. I didn't turn around and I wasn't sort of interviewing them about it, but that was just naturally while we were all networking with each other. It just came out, exuded of every pore. And you can't help but think that's a good place to work. Unfulfilled, demoralized employees won't. They won't talk about that. Some of you may feel unfulfilled, demoralized. Do you think that? I know there's been times in my life where I felt absolutely burnt out and exhausted, and I'm catching it with friends, and they go, right, and they go, no, unfortunately, I've got to cover another Saturday. I know it's been ages, and I did say that I would see you, but we're short shift, and nobody, and I'm the only one that is prepared to cover on a Saturday. We've got no one else to do it. Do you know what? I'm absolutely exhausted with it. I don't know how long I can do this because I'm the only one that seems to be covering these, these shifts. And I understand we can't afford agency, but I'm absolutely at the end. We've all been there. We all know the reality, but what can we do to change the reality? Because if you're hearing somebody saying that, I'm not about to turn around and say, oh, I want somebody that makes its workers work every Saturday just because they can do, because they're not, they're not bringing agency staff in and they expect you to step up and do, you're not going to want to do that, are you? Unfulfilled, demoralized employees won't speak highly of your organization. Before you even put an advert out, look at your organizational profile and make sure you've got fulfilled values in employees, because they will be worth any amount spent on advertising, because it's that word of mouth that gets people in, or it drives the traffic to those adverts. Thank you, Jade. So, some prompts for you to take away. Positive organizational culture that has enough flexibility to genuinely support and value employees and enhance their skills and knowledge. This is what you want to be thinking about before you put any adverts out. Have we got that in place? What do we need to do in place? And I know some of you may say, no, but we need to get people in because we've got, from our, ratios, we need to make sure we're covered and we're compliant. I understand that, but be thinking, have you got positive organizational culture? The reason you might have recruitment issues in the first place is people are leaving because you haven't got those things in, and you're struggling to recruit the right people because you haven't got those right things in place. So you do need to prioritize them. You want to have a strong reputation for being a high quality employer. One of the biggest compliments I ever got was when I was CEO of a charity, and we'd spent a lot of time developing the team. I'd come in and done a sort of a turnaround project, which is what I like to do, and what I'd been brought in to do. And we had recruited some really great people, and we were working with them, and we worked with our HR manager to make sure we got benefits. And this isn't, I know none of us have got huge amounts of money, but the benefits were just around individuals feeling valued. It is a simple little thing like, giving bars of chocolate to people when you notice it. It's not giving like £500 bonuses here, there, and everywhere. It is just valuing people. And the commissioner said, you know what, we really love it when anyone from the name of the organisation comes to the conferences, because we know they'll always bring something to the conference. They'll always ask informative questions. They'll always be engaged. We love it when we see the polo shirts with your company coming into it. And that was a really great compliment, because it meant my team, when they were out there, were representing in the very highest of ways. And guess what? That commissioner who said that, she ended up saying, oh, we're looking for an organisation to do this, or we've got a few referrals. I don't know whether they'd be. So we ended up getting more work as a result of it. Your recruitment process needs to be a clear, appealing call to actions for individuals with the right values and behaviours. So you have to identify what they are in our organisation before you even go out for the advert. And also a culture that welcomes a breadth of life experiences and a willingness to learn. I'll come on and I'll show you in a moment that it is far easier to teach people the practicalities of the role than the philosophy and the values that you want to embody as an organisation. If somebody isn't an engaging person, if somebody hasn't got a willingness to learn and a breadth of experiences that can bring a rich tapestry to your organisation, that's far harder to bring than putting somebody through a course. You can put somebody through a course, but what they do with it comes down to their breadth of life experiences and their willingness to learn. Thank you, Jade. So, your question, is the ideal team member you desire reflected in your recruitment process? I did a very interesting piece of work where I was brought in to support them with their recruitment. I brought in to support an organisation with their recruitment and retention. And I spent 2 days or so just moving amongst people, just finding out, so who is it that what sort of person, I was observing what their organisation looked like, and I was asking people, so what would be your ideal team member then? And I got inundated with responses. Oh, it would be this person that did this, or we really need somebody, right from the fact of, yes, oh, we want someone passionate and engaging, but also it was, do you know what? We're really, really struggling to have somebody to go and do the hydrotherapy, Paul. So it'd be really good to have somebody that had a willingness and didn't mind doing the hydrotherapy sessions, because it's annoying. We've got funding to write hydrotherapy sessions and we're struggling to get enough staff to make sure we've got the right ratios to go. So some weeks we just don't end up going. And there was so a real wealth of things. And then I called them all together at the end of the 2 days and I showed them their advert. And I showed them the list of things that they'd said. They didn't bear any relevance to each other. But what they'd said was an appealing call to action. It made my heart sing. It was great. Are you somebody that wants to get out and do these activities, wants to do this? Whereas their advert was a wah, wah, wah of same old, same old. We want you up to this level. This. It was the same old. It could have been one of a million adverts. Yes, it did what it said on the tin. It said what qualifications you need, what the what the desired expertise and all those sort of where it was, all the it was the nuts and bolts of the job, but it wasn't the heartbeat of the job. And so then they were grumbling that they had nobody applying. They wanted, I observed them in a recruitment process and their reflections afterwards, and they said no one seemed to bring any Vavavoom. And I think, well, you're not advertising for Vavavoom. Anyone with Vavavoom has gone over to they've gone over they're the tequila worms. They've gone in that direction. Think about, is the ideal team member you desire reflected in your recruitment process? Thank you, Jade. Whoever says, I think it's a great idea to interview 4 people before deciding what the real hiring requirements are. No one should say that, but we actually do. If you're honest with yourselves, what are our hiring requirements? Whereas we say, oh yeah, they meet their criteria. Well, they interviewed okay. I think they'll fit. Well, we'll see how they get on. Well, we're really desperate to fill the role. Nobody should be doing that. Whereas in health and social care, sometimes because of our want to recruit, we do that. You are better off not recruiting people than recruiting people that don't meet your requirements. And you won't know which side of those you fall unless you're absolutely honest and clear with yourself beyond the nuts and bolts of the job of what your actual hiring requirements are. Thank you, Jade. Interesting, when we're looking about value-based recruitment and retention, Skills for Care found 58% of staff recruited for values were better at developing the skills they needed for their role. So they may not have come in with those skills, but they came in and they were better at developing them than people that on their CV said that they had them. 72% of staff recruited for values performed better than those recruited using traditional methods. So just going off CVs, people that were able to demonstrate they had the values and they were recruited through a value-based recruitment performed 72% times better because they exude the values of your organization. They want to be part of it. They give off an energy. They want to be part of it. You've got them in. They're going to fit in for the right reasons. They're going to fit to your organization than someone that just because it's on paper doesn't mean that they are going to naturally embody those in their day-to-day practice. 3 in 4 employees reported that staff recruited for values exhibited better social care values than those recruited using traditional methods. We work across health and social care. We work in a value-based role. We are not a faceless, heartless profession. So why wouldn't we want to recruit people that have the same value base as us? Because they will perform better in their particular roles. They will demonstrate. And I've done a piece of research previously that we haven't got time to go into today, but just to break down, that shows that there is a direct correlation between people that have high levels of well-being that are demonstrated through their value-based practice and them, the level at which they support other individuals. They bring on the individuals that they support, their value-based and their passion. And because from a neurological perspective, because your well-being is raised, your cognitive ability raised. And no matter where you may be, if you have a disability, if you may need other different forms of medical support, or however your need for support may present itself, if you have higher levels of well-being, you are going to be more receptive to that support. It was a fascinating study, but just shows the importance to focus on that value-based, and they'll only come with the right recruitment. And this one, looking at how many billions of pounds sick days cost us, 62% of staff recruited for values had lower rates of sickness and absence. It is worth taking your time and making sure you're clear of what you are recruiting to make sure that you recruit those right people. Thank you, Jade. Okay, so an activity, and this is one that I'm going to leave you for a couple of minutes so you can put things in the chat or speak to us, is how could you make your recruitment process more value-based? Or if you already feel that you have a good value base, I don't want to assume that you don't. You may have other issues. You may have a good value-based recruitment process. It might be other issues of retention that you're struggling with. But if you have some good things, you've changed your practice recently, share those with us. Please do. We want to learn from each other. We're a sector of magpies that learn from each other. So 2 things, be honest. Remember, this is a shared, this is a safe space to share. How could you improve your current recruitment process? Be honest, hold that mirror up to yourself. But what elements of your recruitment practice at the moment reflect value-based recruitment that you'd be willing to share? Okay, I'm going to give you just 3 minutes to think of that, because like I say, most of these are to take away, but 3 minutes, because things will begin to spring to your mind. So it'll just take us up to 2 o'clock just to think about that. Just take my glasses off to have a little. There we go. Got you bear with me as I take my glasses off for the read. So we've got Sarah, who's wonderful. Thank you, Sarah. That's its application form has a selection, has a section for evidence of meeting one of the trust values. Wonderful. So you can actually present evidence in that application form. How do you meet that? So you're getting people to think immediately, thinking immediately about actually how do you link in with the trust value. So people are having to stop and think. And I must admit, when I've been asked to do that, then I start to get excited because I think, oh yeah, I match. I'm going to fit in here. This job's got my name written all over it. John, Paul, you embed our organisation values in the job descriptions, websites, interview materials. Absolutely essential. Thank you for pointing that out. That is something that people say is quite a obvious thing that, well, we have our values everywhere. Do you though? Do you? Often not. Make sure that they're up to date. Make sure they look clear, that they're on your job descriptions, that you're on their websites, that they're on the interview materials. And when we come on to retention, make sure that they continue to be. Funny story while we're just thinking here, and I will we'll be all honest. This is a safe space, so I'll share honestly here. At Heart of England MenCap, and since I've been here, I've completely redone the values. But before, the reason I redid them, because before they had because they had them as a little acronym of heart. So we had one value, but honesty began with H and then EART. You get the idea. First of all, they were really just shoehorned in because it's about heart, and they thought that was good. And then the second thing is, when I was going around to services, they're all meant to be on the wall, but none of them spelt heart, so they didn't obviously mean anything to anybody. So just because we had our values, they weren't embedded. John Paul's point, make sure they are embedded everywhere they go. And thank you, Kushala. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Blend the organizational core values clearly on the offices. Yeah, absolutely. Blend them in. Make sure it's there. Yeah, and thank you, Jade. It's beneficial to include what the applicant can expect from the job with scenario-based examples. This demonstrates your organizational values, but also attracts applicants who share values. Brilliant. Absolutely. Include those in the in the description of what people can expect from what's going on. So thank you so much, everybody, for sharing and bearing with me with my glasses on and glasses off. Okay, so thank you for those. There are a number of ways that we can exude that, and just one example from me to give anyone, if anyone else has got a chance, wants to say anything else, that one thing that works really well is sometimes even just doing a video recording of a a very short day in the life of, so people can see on your website. that or people can see if it's sort of digital application, actually, this is what the job looks like in practice. So people think, yeah, that's a place I'd really like to work. That looks good. Thank you so much for sharing, everybody. We will carry on, but that's been really useful. Thank you. And again, this is why it is useful to share that you know that, oh, you don't have any weaknesses. Excellent. Because we really only hire people with no self-awareness. It is the fact of it gives us a chance if we're honest and say that these are our values. And then people begin to feel safe and then they say, yeah, actually, this is somewhere, what are the areas that you need to develop here? And we feel safe to say that. So, yeah, this is my strong point. I do really share that. It's just we have sorry Jade, that was my fault. That but actually then going on to sort of say that, but this is something that we I need to work on. And that's a good positive thing as part of the interview process as well. Thank you, Jade, which leads us on then there, because we need to have a realistic awareness of why people leave. This is where retention and recruitment join, because this is where it comes back. The first thing you do is how could you prevent having to have a recruitment process? And this is why there's a realistic awareness of why people leave. So often we don't have that realistic awareness until after people have left. Thank you, Jade. So we're going straight into another activity. You've done a lot. You did half an hour sitting. Now you're actually getting you interactive. Revisit your exit interview process. Again, this is one I'm going to give you a couple of minutes just to share and identify areas that that either your good practice areas you could develop, but also a takeaway activity is revisit your exit interview process. So just take again just a couple of minutes up till 5:02ish, and then we can talk if anyone wants to discuss this. What good practice do you do at exit interviews, and what areas could you develop? This is one area that I so often see is a jumping through hoops exercise, that is a HR sign off, and people don't do anything with it. I'll wait and won't say any more until giving you an opportunity if anybody wants to share anything, but have a think of what good practice you do at exit interviews and what areas could you develop. There we go. We've got people typing, so I'll just leave it for a moment. Wonderful. Thank you, Leah. Yeah, asking for the applicant's view on self-development. Yeah, that's great. Asking for people sort of what is their thoughts on self-development, because then that can interview, because as you'll come on to later, self-development is one of the reasons that people do retain. So that's absolutely spot on. A reason that people stay is because of self-development. And often when people leave, it's only at the exit interview when people say, well, I wanted to develop and do this and it didn't give me the right opportunities to do that. Whereas if we ask that to begin with, then we know what the expectations are. Thank you. That's it. Thank you, John Paul. Ask how well the organisation lived up to its values and whether the individual felt aligned with the culture. Again, great. Asking those questions, having areas that, did it live up to that? And these are all things, and I'm really, really pleased, and you can both feel really, really smug about yourselves, because this is going to come up later on. It's those things that we need to say, do we live up to that culture? Did we do that? Because so often it's just, and it's such a shame, but we can learn from that. The whole point of an exit interview isn't just as a sign off to make sure that somebody doesn't come back and doesn't have a constructive, you know, uh, constructive dismissal sort of, complaint or something. That it's absolutely with the whole point of them is learning from how we can move forward. So it's exactly right. So often people do them, and then someone says, "Oh, but if I'd have been able to do this," and then you just think, "No, it's too," and they say, "I'm afraid I've started to apply for other jobs." We need to build those things in. And when we're aware in our exit interview, we can, the whole reason that we want to ask those in the, because we can use that as a mirror to hold up to ourselves, we can build them in and prevent it happening as we go on. So thank you, Jade. That's it. Wonderful. Thank you, Jade. Not only was she thank you to the touch, she's added a question as well, which is wonderful. Exit interview should be as important as the day you hired the person. It should do. We will come on to the whole employee's journey that we're going to talk about. That's so important. And use them to measure the success of the organisation, then use these findings to make further improvements. Absolutely, absolutely. It's that whole cycle, that employability cycle that goes round, and one feeds into each other. Recruitment leads to retention, and when people do leave, that enhances recruitment. Wonderful. Thank you very much, Jay. That's a great place to move on, because it leads us perfectly onto effective recruitment linked to successful retention. There we go. If we carry straight on. So looking at employers with a turnover rate of less than 10%, which is great because that's less than the national average in health and social care. What did they do? Remember, do some callbacks for things that you've already identified about self-development, about the values, investing in learning and development. 94% of people said that the contributing factors of the success, people stayed, were because they felt that their learning and development was invested in. When people feel as if they are being invested in, they're loving that. They're developing professionally. They're working forward. They feel that this is somewhere I can grow in the organisation. I feel fulfilled. You don't then start thinking about, oh, I'm going to look somewhere else. You feel as if you're developing. Why would you leave somewhere where you feel that you're being developed? And also, again, a callback to what we've just done and the answers that you very good people, gave, was the fact that so often at interview process, people may ask, oh, is there an opportunity for, oh, yes, we really support people in development. We've got an active CPD program. And then when people come into work, actually, that doesn't come to anything. When I say, oh, will there be an opportunity for me to grow? Yes, there will be. And then they're not given it. No wonder then people end up leaving. We overpromise at the interview. We're not realistic, and then we don't live up to those promises. Embedding the values of the organisation. Again, you would be amazed how many places embed the values in the in the recruitment process, and they do the value-based stuff, whereas actually they don't see that in day-to-day practice. We say one of our values is collaboration. If I walked around your services, your offices, your organisations, are people working collaboratively? Is that what most of your workers see? Collaborative working? Are people working with integrity? Are people supportive, whatever your values may be? Are people being kind to each other? Is that what I'm seeing? People stay in organisations where they see that. People don't stay in organisations where they feel as if they have been hoodwinked a little bit and thought, well, actually, I've come on board and I do this, and actually, I'm not seeing that. Actually, my team aren't collaborative. They're not working like that. Celebrate the achievements of both the organisation and the individual. interesting. So often we charge forward, we're firefighting. We don't take time to take stock and say, actually, look how far forward we have come. I did this piece of work yesterday with a group that we were doing, and they have got a long way to go. But what I said to them was, let's celebrate the fact we have turned the oil tank around, and actually we know where we've got to go. We're not there yet, but we've got all the people sitting in the right place, ready to row towards that. It would have been very easy for somebody to say, hold on a minute, we've invested all this time, we've invested all this resource, and we're still not there. We're still not there. And everyone begins to feel demoralized. Whereas we acknowledged how far forward in the last few months we've actually come. Or sometimes it's just a quick win, build in a quick win and celebrate those achievements. Celebrate the fact of, again, something really, really daft with a couple of my team members. Tuesday evening, we had something come up about a potential tender that came up, and we were talking about that, and it was really nice. And I had the head of clinical effectiveness and the finance director and myself and it was really great because we were emailing each other. And what happened, that those two ended up emailing before, and I was saying, oh, actually, could you actually work together on this? Before I'd managed to send the email, one of them had sent it to the other one saying, I tell you what, should we work together on this? Claire, thanks very much for flagging this. Should we work together on this? And so I sent the email that I was going to say, and then turned around and said, brilliant, fantastic teamwork. You'd got there before I even had a chance to say anything. Well done. That's a real step forward. We never would have got there before. It's just celebrating that well done. And also the individual. Then afterwards, and I've met with the head of clinical effectiveness just before this meeting, and I was able to say, do you know what? That was really great, because previously finance and the more operational clinical effectiveness stuff have worked in silos. No animosity, but they've worked in silos. Whereas now they're beginning to work together for the benefit. And the person there that said, yeah, but I'm not really involved in the finance stuff. I want to get involved in the clinical stuff. So I was able to say, do you know what? Well done. That was really, really great. Because I know that you're not, you don't want to get drawn into that, but it's important that you are. And well done for saying, do you know what? I'm happy to work with you and help you understand where I am. So it took me on both of those occasions with both of those people 5 minutes to celebrate that. You could see the difference on that person's face. And all I did was said, well done for something that they were doing. People like to feel celebrated. It doesn't have to be a big hurrah, but people like to be celebrated. There's a reason why that chocolate bar, Crunchy, did a whole marketing campaign about, thank Crunchy, it's Friday. And you know what? People end up doing those as little celebrations. We've earned this at the end of the week. Give everyone a Crunchy. I've been in offices where people do that. I bought you a Crunchy. Well done, to celebrate because you've had a good week. You've done really, really well. It's the price of a chocolate bar. The marketing campaign works. It works for people. It's a bit like the one that said, are you worth the last Rolo? That's going back a bit. That's showing the age. Only some of you will be able to remember that. I'm surprised you can, Jade. I'm surprised you can. Clearly your mother told you about it. But it is that bit that, and people used to say, oh, well done. Do you know what? I've given you my last Rolo. That isn't a whole packet of sweets. That's just the one. We're not talking big spends here to make people feel valued. We don't have to. And then the final one is involving colleagues in decision making. I always find that really, really fascinating because I spend an inordinate amount of time with senior managers saying, the trouble is nobody else wants to take responsibility. If I don't do it, nobody else will. And I'm going, do you give them permission to? What do you put in place to allow them to be involved in decision making? Because unless you put those things in place, people aren't going to take responsibility for things. And what's happening, the irony is, these people, again, going right back to the development, going right back to the point about asking people about their self-development wants in the recruitment, that excellent, these excellent points that you guys put in the chat, you know, people are wanting to aspire. You've not asked them about that. They're not involved. These potential future senior managers, do you know what they're doing? They're leaving and going being excellent senior managers elsewhere. You've done the heavy lifting. You've seen them through the support worker stage or whatever stage it may be, and they've left because you've not involved them in the decision making. And instead, I'm left with a group of senior managers who are saying, I'm the only one that takes responsibility for any of this. Nobody, if I don't do it, nobody does. Not true. Have a look at how you can reposition that. Are you giving people permission and the tools to use their initiative, to be innovative, to be part of that decision-making process? It doesn't mean you have to take everything on board that they say, but you can say, actually, that's a really interesting point. I hadn't thought of it from that perspective. I don't think that would work quite just yet, but I'm going to keep that in mind for the future. Worth keeping in mind. Thank you, Jade. So be honest about the realities of the job from the onset. That'll ensure a good match. If you want people that are prepared to go and do hydrotherapy, be honest at the interview or even in the application that, would you be prepared to take on these extra activities? Don't not mention it and then suddenly say, oh, and by the way, we need you to do hydrotherapy every Tuesday and Thursday, and then be surprised when people say, well, no, I'm not, I don't want to. If there is a reality that that people will have to do some additional shifts because you have a philosophy that you because of finances, you don't want to spend very much on agency staff. So we often look, would you be prepared to be flexible in your working? That, would you be prepared to, if you don't normally work Saturdays, to do the odd Saturday? Say, are you prepared to work in a flexible way? Because sometimes we do have to, ask people if they are prepared to do additional overtime or sometimes change their shifts around to suit shift patterns. Not always, but sometimes we do that. Say that to people, because if I've got childcare responsibilities, then I can honestly say, well, actually, that doesn't, I'm very prepared to be flexible to a point, but I wouldn't be able to do that unless I had, if you give me enough enough advance warning, I would be able to. It gives you a chance to know rather than someone turning around, oh, we're getting to the witching hour now, 3 o'clock on a Friday, where people begin to sort of, think, oh no, when we get sickness for the weekend and we get those emergency placements coming in, so we need more additional cover, all those things, and then phoning around going, oh, would you be able to come in tomorrow? Because we've just had an emergency placement come in, or would you, because someone's phoning sick? Well, I told you I can't do tomorrow. I would if you'd given me, I'll need more notice. Have those conversations before, because I hate to feel I feel really guilty because I'm always saying no. But if you'd have given me, and that's when I leave, because I don't want to work somewhere. I'm always feeling that I'm saying no, and it's just not, it's making my well-being, really depleted. Whereas have those conversations, be honest about it. If there is a chance that there'll be a need for overtime, ask people. If there's a need that there'll be extracurricular activities, if you will, tell people. Because I tell you what, there'll also be people that say, yeah, brilliant. I'm always glad. I'm just taking on a new flat that's more expensive rent. I'd take on any overtime you give me. Or, oh, brilliant. You know what? I love that. I love getting out and about. I'm really happy to do additional things. That really, I love that. Those people are there. You will find them if you're honest about it when you do those interviews, when you do that initial that little advert. Thank you, Jade. So as we come towards the final 10 minutes, and we will finish with a bit to offer some questions at the end, is the majority of triggers for health and care workers leaving their jobs are often linked to personal points that we could do something about. people feel that they're doing challenging, unsupported roles. That it's the reality in health and social care. You do lone working, but people want to feel supported. They want to feel if there's challenges that they can talk to somebody about them, that they're not unrealistic challenges. People feel the stress of busy workloads. Stress is sometimes a perceived thing, not always. It's sometimes a perceived thing because people think, well, they've asked me to do that, they've asked me to do that. Sometimes people just need to be support. How can I help you manage your workload? Or sometimes it's a reality of, oh, could you do that for me? Could you do that for me? And every single person on this call, myself, Jade, everybody, all of us will have had someone turn around and said, oh, I don't suppose you've got time to do that, have you? And yet what that person also needs to say, but I know you're really busy, so don't worry about this. Some of the most stressful times that I still have if I'm doing board papers and then I've got everything ready and I've sorted out, and then at the last minute, a chair of the board will turn around to me and suddenly say, oh, I don't suppose you could just do a quick executive summary of this, and this. And I'm going, when? Because I'm in meetings all night and the meeting's at 10 o'clock tomorrow and I've already got my paper. When? Whereas if they turn around and said, actually, could you just do a verbal summary? Because I know, you're in meetings tonight and you've done that. And then it takes the stress off. We can manage that stress with people. Working conditions. We might not be able to pay very well in the health and social care sector, but we can make sure that people have good working conditions. That they have somewhere to hang their coat and put their bag, that there's somewhere rather than just being thrown in the corner of a staff room, that, where people can feel valued, that there's a fridge that they can, put their lunch in. It's not a difficult thing to ask, that if people don't smoke, that people respect that actually I don't have to walk past people vaping to get there, because I know from health and safety we shouldn't, but people sometimes still do. Do we make sure that these things are all respected? Lack of guaranteed working structure, hours, last minute changes. It's that drip, drip, drip. It happens sometimes. Of course it does. Again, every single person on this call this week, if not just today, will have had a last minute change to something. Reality of health and social care. Again, reality when you're applying for the job. That's what it says on the tin. If you want a 9 to 5, you come in, you sit at your desk, you do exactly the same thing, you leave at 5 o'clock, and there's no last minute changes, and the hours are the same. Health and social care is not for you, no matter where you are working in it. But that doesn't mean you can't have a guaranteed working structure. Could we do rotas a little bit more in advance? I spent a long time working with somebody that everyone was annoyed with her, but she ended up, she was a single parent and her partner had the child every other weekend. So it just worked out. So they said, well, could you put me on shift every other weekend? That's fine. Last minute, I can't do it. But if you did it, I could work every Saturday at the last minute if it falls when my partner's got the children. Not feeling valued for the role they do by management or the clients, customer service users, families. People want to feel valued. Positive strokes. Thank you, Jade. So this is the employee's journey. Jade alluded to it in the chat. First of all, attract me. What's going to make me come in? What's going to make you stand out? What's going to make you be the tequila worm that people want to come and be that? And then what we want to do is get started, come in and look forward to. So we need to say, let's get started right. So when we're in, we do something rather than how often do you go and say, right, that's it. The first 2 weeks are just reading policies. Or going through and doing that, or, oh, well, we haven't done that yet. Actually, let's get in there. You've told me about this exciting stuff. Let me do it. And then development, then managing performance. Engage and motivate me. When I've been in a long way, continue to engage and motivate me. Don't say, oh, well, just because just because Emma's been here for 3 years now. Well, she's been here for years. That's, we still want that. And we still want recognition. All those things are continuous, no matter how many weeks, months, years we've been here. And when I do go, wish me farewell. It shouldn't be with under a cloud. It should be wonderful. That's really good. And we wish you the very best. It's really sad that we're leaving you, but actually there's only one CEO post here and I'm not going anytime soon. So I'm really pleased that you're going off to be a CEO over there and you do it with our blessing. And we're really proud of you. Thank you, Jade. Value-based recruitment, but that also means value-based employment and value-based retention. Okay? When you talk about value-based recruitment, value-based employment and retention, and that way people will think, this is the dream job. You have become the tequila worm. You are the one that people want to come to. Thank you, Jade. So your takeaway activity to go away is, what are your employees' employment journey? What's your journey? And what your employment journey? Think about that. Identify, celebrate, and build on the strengths of the people in your team. And the things that you do around recruitment and retention. What are our strengths? Starting with the people and looking around the edges and identify, reevaluate and develop what are the areas of challenge. Continue to do that. Thank you, Jade. And that then is, with a whole 2 minutes for questions there, the end. And you'll get these slides. You've got my contact details there. If people haven't got time or don't want to share questions now, Jade is my witness that I am genuine when I say I don't mind you contacting me. Feel free to connect with LinkedIn. But if you want to send me an email, then please do, because nobody ever takes